Welcome to the Dream Nation Breakfast Club. I am your host, Josh Valentine, and I am also the host of the Journey podcast. So the Dream Nation Breakfast Club is where we gather together with our community every single Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we share everything centered around life coaching, personal development, anything that could essentially make your life better. And happy to be with you all as always. Welcome. If you guys don't mind, let us know where in the world you are tuning in from. I know we have people who tune in from different parts of the world, some people on the other side of the pond. And shout out to everybody tuning in super early this morning, and appreciate all of you guys hopping on with me. Now, for those of you who are new and you have no idea what you are introduced to, I cover so many different topics around things that could essentially make your life better. So it could be personal development. Every single week is something a little bit different. And this week, we're going to be talking about how to have more faith during challenging seasons. So take notes as if you're going to have to teach this information. That's how you're going to get the most value from the Breakfast Club. And we always share here on the Breakfast Club that the weakest ink is stronger than the strongest memories. So, treat it as if you're going to a lecture hall with the professor and you're there taking notes as a student. And I can assure you that by the end of the Breakfast Club session, you will walk away with a lot of value. So with that being said, really excited to be here. Drop a comment. Let us know, again, what city you are tuning in from. If you're watching the replay, drop an R. And by the way, the Breakfast Club is streamed on multiple platforms across multiple social media channels, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all of that stuff. Sometimes you may even find it on LinkedIn, but we stream all over. But you could also hop on to past recordings at the Journey podcast with Josh Valentine, and you'll find tons of Breakfast Club sessions on there, as well as a lot of phenomenal interviews with people that I've interviewed over the last few years. So let's jump right into it. If you're new to the Breakfast Club, typically within the first couple of minutes, we're covering different life hacks, fun facts before we jump into the meat and potatoes of the day's session. So with that being said, let's jump into some life hacks for you all. The very first one that I have is the 10-10-10 grounding rule. So the 10-10-10 grounding rule. And basically the way it works is whenever you're overwhelmed, ask yourself, will this matter in 10 days? Will it matter in 10 months? Will it matter in 10 years? This instantly shifts you from panic into perspective and restores calm. So I know we could all benefit from that from time to time. And I mean, let's be honest, sometimes life is lifing and you got a lot of things that you're up against. And it really does help to gain that perspective. Like, is this really going to matter in 10 days or 10 months or let alone 10 years? So really great tip. Next, we have, I love this one. It's the faith folder hack. So the way the faith folder hack works is you create a folder in your phone labeled proof that I'm guided. And, Nate, you could title it whatever you want, but essentially it's a folder, whether it's on your notepad or whatever, that lists all the ways God has come through for you in your life or all the things that you've even overcome. Right. So every time something works out unexpectedly, you get a sign or someone helps you in a magical way, you put it down in that folder. And on hard days, the beautiful thing is you can just scroll through it and it instantly boosts your faith. So if you need that reassurance that, hey, I'm guided, God's got me, right? He showed up for me on multiple occasions, because let's be honest, sometimes when we're going through like very challenging seasons, we tend to forget how many times God has showed up for us over and over and over again. And sometimes we need those reminders. Sometimes we need to be reminded of just our history with God, right? So really great hack there. Create a faith folder. And I always talk about my highlight reel. So I also have a highlight reel where it's a notepad. It's a note in my notepad on my phone, and it's tons of pictures of things that I've been able to do in my life. And sometimes, like, if I'm feeling a little down and out, I'll just go through that highlight reel, and it's just a great reminder of past wins, past victories, and just really amazing things that I've been able to do with my life and how blessed I've been. Because again, sometimes we're so inundated by everything that we're up against that we tend to just forget. We put these miracles on the back burner, and we need to be reminded from time to time. Next, we have the micro step method. The way this works is when fear is loud, shrink the step until it feels doable. Faith grows not from big leaps, but from consistent micro moves. So I agree with this. Sometimes you just need momentum. You need to get the wheels turning. So I'm currently in the middle of a 5-day one-on-one challenges that I'm doing with a lot of people in the community. And by the way, if you didn't hear about the 5-day challenge that we currently have going on, DM me the word challenge. There's a select group of people that I'm currently working with one-on-one for 5 days straight on just different areas of their life that they're working on. And what I've explained to them, everybody that I'm working with on this one-on-one challenge, I've explained to them that the goal really is not to just leave the 5-day challenge like a runaway train. The goal is to get the wheels turning, because sometimes the initial stages are really the hardest part, just getting those wheels turning and building up the momentum. Sometimes it's just getting yourself started. That's the most difficult challenge. And then once you get yourself started and you build that momentum, you get those little goals, those small victories. That's what leads to the runaway train, right? That's what leads to you getting that momentum where things just start taking off. So the micro step method, really, really great method. And break down whatever it is. You guys know I'm big on micro goals. So anybody that I'm working with, we basically reverse engineer whatever their North Star is. So whatever their outcome or their intended outcome is, and we break it down into small actionable steps, or many of you probably know of it as SMART goals. And they're essentially micro goals that are attainable, right? They're very specific, very clear. And these are micro goals that leads to the macro vision. Next, we have ask the universe, God, whatever you believe in, one powerful question. And here's the question. Instead of asking, why is this happening? Ask, what is this teaching me or trying to teach me? Right? Your brain automatically shifts into solution mode. And sometimes that definitely helps me. I'll have those moments where I'm just going through very challenging circumstances, and maybe these are circumstances that you've gone through in the past. And it is super helpful to genuinely ask yourself, like, man, am I repeating the same mistakes? Am I not learning what it is that I need to learn? And is that why I'm going through the same thing? It's like being in a relationship, right? If you end up on this cycle where it's the same type of person, different face, if you catch my drift. Like sometimes you're in these relationships and you're like, why am I attracting the same type of person, same toxic relationships? And I believe that many times it's just you haven't learned the lesson yet. So it is super helpful to genuinely ask yourself, what exactly is life trying to teach me? Right? How can I avoid this happening again? How can I avoid this cycle that has to be broken? So it is super helpful to always look for the treasure in the trash, always look for the inspiring message in that mess that you're going through. Because the last thing you want to do is have to constantly repeat these seasons of suffering, right? And it's not to say that you're not going to have difficult seasons, but there are a lot of things that just don't have to be repeated if you learn what it is that you need to learn in the process. Next, we have the 3-minute faith reset. The 3-minute faith reset. And the way it works is you set a timer. And for 3 minutes, repeat a single sentence like, everything is shifting in my favor. It recalibrates your nervous system and rewires your thoughts. So very practical advice. Just 3 minutes, you take the time to repeat this affirmation or this mantra or this incantation, whether you do it with an emotional charge behind it or you're just vocally saying it. Remember, what you vocalize, you internalize. Words have power. So repeating powerful statements like this, sometimes like that's what we need. Remember, there's power in the tongue. So it is super, super helpful to repeat these things and speak life into your situation. Next, we have send a message to your future self. And basically what it is, it's record a voice note saying what you are going through, what you are learning, and what you hope for. Listen back weeks later and watch how far you've come. I love that. Isn't that amazing? Like, when was the last time you thought to just kind of get fascinated with your frustrations and genuinely just even record or document the journey? Like, I'm reading this, and that's the one thing I love about the Breakfast Club. Sometimes I feel like it's genuinely for me. I'll be teaching these things that I learn online and many things that I've implemented in the past. But a lot of the stuff is just my personal research and that I share with you all. And when I share it with you, I'm like, man, that's good. I need to implement that. And it's super helpful. But I love that. A voice note, basically talking about this season of your life. I mean, that voice note may very well be useful information that you use for your next book. You just never know. So a really, really great life hack there. And next we have the energy cleanup hack. The energy cleanup hack. And basically the way it works is, if you're feeling stressed out, you want to clean or organize one small area. It can be your desk, your drawer, your counter. And essentially what it's doing is giving the brain a sense of control and opens your mind for clarity and trust. So this is really good. You guys know I'm big on, whenever you're looking to get your life together, just taking the time to clean your home, clean your space. And it doesn't have to be the entire home. Maybe it's just the dishes that have been sitting there for 3 days and you just feel like your life is out of control. Maybe it's just making your bed. There's a really good book on an admiral from the Navy. I believe it's called Make Your Bed or something like that. And there's a YouTube video on it that went viral years ago. And it pretty much just goes over the benefit of making your bed, having the discipline to make your bed, and the power of coming back home and coming back to your bed at night and having your bed made. How many of you can relate to that? You come back home, and when your bed is spread, it just has a different feel to it. No matter how difficult life gets, it's always that subtle reminder that, you know what, I'm still in control here. Like, I'm not completely all over the place, right? Sometimes we need to feel as if we have order in our lives. And that's what making your bed is symbolic for. Next, we have the get outside for 10 rule. Basically, what it is every time your faith feels low, get outside for at least 10 minutes. Fresh air resets your stress chemicals and improves your ability to think clearly. And I can tell you right now from personal experience, this absolutely works. It really, really does help to just go outside, clear your mind, go for a walk, get out in nature, get some vitamin D, some serotonin flowing in your system because of the sunlight. Like, the earth will heal you. Nature will heal you. It has this miraculous ability to restore you and heal you. And it truly does help to just calm yourself down, bring down those cortisol levels, those stress hormones in your body. Now, here's a few fun facts. Your brain can't tell the difference between imagined success and real success. When you visualize things working out, your body responds as if it already happened. This reduces fear and boosts confidence. So expectation is a big, big part of the miracle process, guys. You guys probably have heard me mention in the past. I once heard a pastor years ago at a church service say that expectation is the breeding ground for all miracles. You have to have this expectation that things are going to work out. Things are going, like, great things are happening in your life. Great things, you're destined to do amazing things. God has a big calling on your life. Like, you have to have this unwavering expectation. And this most certainly helps you. Like, there's just a power in expectation. You move different when you have a certain level of expectation. Here's another fun fact. 95% of the things people worry about never actually happen. Isn't this true? Has this been the case for your life, where 95% of the things that you've stressed about? I know it's definitely happened for me, even in the darkest seasons, where you're like, you don't know how you're going to get out of it, but you somehow do. And everything that you've gone through in your life, think about it. No matter how difficult the storm was, that you were navigating through, you still got through. Okay. And 95% of what you were stressing about never even happened. So this is based on multiple psychological studies, meaning your mind is creating storms that never even come. It's a survival mechanism when you really think about it like that, right? So you honor your body, you honor your mind, and also understand that you are not your body and mind. You are a soul that has a body and mind, but you are not your body and mind. So it is very, very important to just acknowledge that whenever you're stressed out, listen, it's your body trying to keep you alive, right? It's nothing to necessarily, beat up on yourself about. You're human. We're all human. But you have to get back to your center. You have to get back to your core and understand that, hey, 95% of what I'm stressing about is never even going to happen. Like they say, fear is false expectation appearing real. You have this false expectation that something is actually going to happen, and it just ends up not. Next, we have stress is often just your body preparing for a breakthrough. So the same hormones released during stress are the ones released during excitement. Your body literally doesn't know the difference until you label it. Okay, until you label it. Sometimes stress is an indication that you need to get up off your you know what and take action. Sometimes that's really what it is. It's like, you know what? I'm stressed out because I know I can do more. I know I can be more, right? I'm not doing what it is that I have to do. So it can be a really useful thing, right? Stress, when you think about it, it's your sympathetic nervous system kicking in, and you're going into fight or flight. Hopefully you're not getting into freeze where you don't do anything and have paralysis of overanalysis, but it sometimes is useful to have a little stress and get up off your tail to do what it is that you need to do. Next, we have trees release chemicals that calm the human nervous system. That's why walking in nature increases clarity, boosts mood, and helps you trust life again. So just get out in nature, get around some trees, y'all. And last but not least, the heart has its own mini brain. So for those of you who don't know, the heart has 40,000 plus neurons and communicates with your actual brain. This is why intuition feels physical, because it's real. Okay, so the body and brain, or the heart and the brain are interconnected. And it's super important to just acknowledge the fact that there's deep wisdom in your heart, right? You hear things like follow your heart and all of that. And it is super, super valuable to, focus on your core, on your center, on your heart space sometimes, because your heart, it has this profound, deep wisdom that can ultimately, really guide you throughout the course of your life. So let's jump into it. How to have more faith during challenging times, during challenging seasons. Okay, so today we are going to cover a lot around faith, which I'm excited about. Faith is something that for me in this recent season, as I'm navigating through a lot of different challenges, like with business and life, sometimes faith is all you've got. Sometimes you're kind of left with no choice but to rely on your faith. And it's super helpful to expand your faith. Okay, so remember, challenging seasons, they do test us the most, but they also grow us the most. It's super helpful to go through challenging seasons because you're being forged in the fire. You're being cultivated for something greater, right? I love the saying that they thought they buried us, but didn't realize that we were seeds, right? And sometimes it's like that. Sometimes you're buried in the dark to really blossom into who God intended you to be. So I can tell you right now, there's been so many times in my life that were uncertain, that I didn't really know the next step. And I just, again, connected with God. I prayed about it. I meditated on it and asked for help, and ended up on the other side. And you end up becoming even more aligned. You end up becoming even stronger. How many of you can relate? Drop a 1 in the comments if you guys don't mind. Drop a 1 in the comments if you can relate to a time in your life where it was so dark, right? Like you didn't even know how you were going to get out of the storm. And when you look back at that season, you could genuinely say that you're grateful for that season because of the person you became in the process. Maybe it's because the story, the testimony that you walked away with, that's super useful today to people that you lead. Think about the lessons that you learned, the character, the grit, how much stronger you are because of that season. Okay. And I can tell you time and time again, I've gone through these really difficult seasons, and it sucks when you're going through it. In fact, when I pray during very dark seasons, oftentimes I'm just praying for God to give me the strength to continue forward, because I know that the dark season is also very useful. It's valuable. It's basically building my character and making me stronger, making me wiser, giving me the ability to have an even more powerful testimony. I speak for a living, so it is helpful to talk about really challenging times. So it does help to have that perspective that, you know what, life is not happening to me. Life is genuinely happening for me. And when you have that perspective, it helps you get through those very difficult moments. So by the end of today's session, you're going to have a lot of practical, spiritual, and mental frameworks to increase your faith when life gets hard. So again, take notes. All right. If you guys don't mind, drop a like, comment, share this with someone who can get value, tag someone who can benefit from today's session on faith. Maybe you're watching the recording and you can just share this podcast episode with someone that you know. So part one, why faith matters most when life gets hard. Okay. Now, remember this, faith is the ability to trust before you have the evidence. The ability to trust before you have the evidence. When was a time in your life where you were pretty much tested with your faith and you had to trust, even if there was no end in sight? And I know one of the things that helped me in really, really tough moments is in scripture, there's a saying, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it's something along the lines of, do not be anxious for tomorrow will take care of itself, right? I believe it was Christ that said that. And it's true. Like sometimes we get super anxious about what's going to happen tomorrow. And it's like, doesn't our God, right, feed the birds and the bees and all of nature, and things just naturally work out. The rhythm of life, it just kind of works itself out. And sometimes we have to be reminded of that. In scripture, God, they're saying like, hey, does God not love you more than he loves the other creatures and stuff? Like, God loves you. God's got you. And you have to remember that. So for me, during hard times, it is helpful to just take it by the day and genuinely ask myself, is today sufficiently supplied for? And 100% of the time it is. It's like, yeah, I'm going to get through today. Right. And you just take it by the day. Don't overwhelm yourself about what's going to happen next month or next week or even tomorrow. Just say, hey, is today sufficiently supplied for? Am I going to starve today? Right? Am I going to have a roof over my head today? And the vast majority of the time, things are going to be okay. So next, remember, challenging seasons create pressure, but pressure creates diamonds. Diamonds are some of the hardest elements or substances, or however you label it, in the entire, one of the strongest material manifestations in the entire universe, right? The only way people, like, when you cut a diamond, you have to cut it with another diamond. That's how powerful they are. But they're created under a lot of pressure. So it's the same for us. We end up being strong. Like, the more pressure you have gone through, the stronger you become in the process. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, the very best diamonds in the world undergo the most pressure before they're made. Okay. Next, we have, without faith, the mind defaults to fear, doubt, and survival mode. Remember, two thoughts can't occupy the mind simultaneously. So you can't have faith and fear at the same time. You're going to have one or the other. And my question to you, maybe you don't believe in this whole faith stuff. Maybe you're like, you know what? That's a bunch of rubbish. Like, I need to take action. I need to put in the work. And yeah, there's definitely truth to that, because faith without works is dead. You have to put in the work, but you also have to understand that when you have faith, there is no room for fear to creep in. And that faith actually is what leads to you being able to do more of the work. It calms your nervous system and gets you to take action. So there's power in flooding your mind with faith as opposed to having fear. Now, next we have faith is not passive. It's a practice that keeps your spirit open so opportunity, solutions, and breakthroughs can actually find you. So it's not just sitting on your hands and doing nothing. It's not just like, again, faith without works. No, it's faith with the works. It's you saying, you know what? Me having faith is going to allow me to do what it is that I need to do to participate in my own rescue. And knowing that if I meet God halfway, he's going to show up, right? Having that attitude. Next, we have in every spiritual tradition, the message is the same. Faith is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. And it's so true. And sometimes it's not just faith. And again, I was talking to one of my business partners who's just really, really good at modeling, right? If she hears about something that's working, like she's really, really good at modeling. But one of the things that I just admire about her is the fact that she also has that belief in herself. So she'll have belief in what it is that she's working on, but she'll also have that belief in herself. And that's a big part of it. Remember, like, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. So you're a child of God, and you have to have that belief in yourself and understand that you have power. You have power to change your circumstances. You have power to create things in this world and really, really just help yourself get out of whatever it is that you're going through. Here's a really great quote. So faith doesn't remove your problems. It transforms you so you can rise above them. That's the idea. Being transformed by your faith. Next, we have part 2, the psychology of faith. The psychology of faith. I love nerding out about everything that we cover. I'm big on science, as you guys know. So I love just talking about the science of a lot of these concepts. So we're going to talk about how faith affects the brain and emotions. Now, when you practice faith, the brain reduces stress hormones and increases clarity. So that's a big part of it, right? That cortisol, remember, when your cortisol spikes, that stress hormone, when it spikes in your body and brain, it's very difficult to be in a state of creativity, of innovation, of resourcefulness. Very difficult to use your imagination when you're just so stressed out. So that's a big part of the faith process. It doesn't have to be all that deep. It's very practical. By you having faith, it calms your nervous system, and it allows you to just, again, open up your mind to be able to really think your way out of what it is that you're going through. Now, faith creates a cognitive shift. You stop focusing on worst case scenarios and start seeing possibility. That's a big part of it, right? And you have to remember that, like, because sometimes when we're worried, when we're in panic, our brain automatically is looking for worst case scenarios. It's looking for the threat. It's looking for the danger. It's a part of our animal nature in a sense, right? During nomadic times, during tribal times, thousands of years ago, whenever a human being was stressed out, it's like, yeah, they're looking for a saber-toothed tiger, and your awareness is on what can go wrong. And it was a survival mechanism. But in modern day times, think about it. It's not very helpful to just always focus on worst case scenarios. And because we're stressed out, whether it's at work or with bills in life, you're constantly in that sympathetic nervous state where it's always fight or flight. And you're compromising your immune system. And this is why a lot of people get sick. So you have to You have to increase that faith so that you can reduce those stress hormones. Okay. Remember also, in your brain, you guys hear me talk about the RAS, the reticular activating system. And the reticular activating system is kind of like a filter. So in short, I'll share an example. One of my favorite SUVs is Cadillacs. I love Cadillac Escalades. And I don't have a Cadillac Escalade, but in terms of 7-seater vehicles, I always think about my family like, man, if we add one more child, we're going to have to upgrade to a 7-seater. But fortunately for us, we just have 3. But if we had an extra child, we'd have to upgrade to a 7-seater. And sometimes I just, I have these dad thoughts. I have these dad moments like, man, what would be the most appropriate vehicle for a bigger family? And I like the Cadillac Escalade. And the way the reticular activating system works is all of a sudden now I see Cadillac Escalades everywhere. Like they pop up all over the place. And watch today, some of you who are tuning into this, you hear me talk about Cadillac Escalades, and now you're going to see them everywhere, right? And they've always been everywhere. It's just your brain isn't focused on that. The reticular activating system is designed to filter out essentially thoughts that are not predominant thoughts. The human brain thinks anywhere from 40 to 60,000 thoughts a day. So you would go crazy focusing on every single thing. So that's the way the RAS works. So what happens is when you're fearful, you're just focusing on the negative. You're just focusing on what's bad, what's not working. And this is why it is essential to flood your mind with positivity, flood your mind with things that are actually going to fuel your faith as opposed to strip you of it. Now, if you believe things will work out, your brain starts searching for evidence of that. So again, very practically, even if you don't believe in all this spiritual stuff, very practical, right? Think about it. If your brain is just focusing on or looking for evidence of why you're going to get through, evidence of this new expectation that, you know what, I'm going to find a way. Now, all of a sudden, you're looking for possibility, and that's what your RAS is filtered on. It's eliminating all the negative stuff and just looking for the signs, looking for the evidence, looking for opportunity. That's the power of it. Faith also gives you emotional endurance. Your nervous system relaxes, which allows better decision-making overall. That's a big part of it. Now, remember, faith trains your mind to look for answers instead of problems. In a nutshell, that's what's happening. You're not focusing or dwelling on all the negative stuff. You're looking for the answers. You're looking for the solutions. You're looking for the signs and synchronicities and all that stuff. Next, why challenging seasons are necessary. I mean, for those of you who are currently in a challenging season, I mean, this past year, it was challenging for me. Definitely one of the most challenging seasons of my life, but I'm always grateful for them. I'm always great. It sucks when you're in it. And sometimes like I'm praying to God and I'm just like, man, God, you really doing a number on me in this season. And it is challenging, but I also acknowledge the fact that there's also a lot of blessings. You may be going through it financially, right? And one season you're going through it financially, but you know what? Your family is healthy. You're healthy. You have a roof over your head. You have all these other things going on. Maybe your job, you just got a promotion or something, right? And it's just your finances. And guess what? The next season, your finances may be up, but you got health challenges. Maybe you lost a loved one. And every season, there's different things that we go through as human beings. And it's rarely ever just all perfect. And even if it is all perfect, usually it doesn't last that long, right? It's not always going to be up. That's just not how life works. You have ups, you have downs, you have winter seasons, summer seasons, and so on and so forth. So embracing when the winter seasons come and understanding that this is an inevitable part of life. And going into it with grace and dignity and faith that things will work itself out. Now, why challenging seasons are necessary. Life uses difficult seasons to rearrange, redirect, realign, and reveal. I'll say that once again for those of you who missed it. Life uses difficult seasons to rearrange, redirect, realign, and reveal. Whether or not you believe that is true, think about it. Every difficult season you've gone through, chances are there probably were some changes that happened. Maybe the rearrangement was you lost a job and you end up finding another job. Maybe you went through a divorce and you end up finding another partner that was way more suitable for you. Sometimes things were revealed, right? Maybe you found out that there are some people that you had relationships with that weren't really who you thought they were. Maybe something was revealed in your business, right? Sometimes it's a realignment. Sometimes you may have deviated from the path and you go through certain things to bring you back to your center, bring you back in alignment with your North Star. What feels like a setback is usually preparation or protection. Think about that. I oftentimes think about my journey in college football. So in high school, I was a star athlete. I was like the guy. I was always on television. I had broke a bunch of records, won championships, all of that stuff. And when I played high school football, and it was a beautiful, beautiful time. And I was always used to being a star athlete. I played football, I wrestled, I ran track, and even as a wrestler, like I won the MVP trophy on my varsity team. And I was a freshman. Very first year of wrestling, and always was a top wrestler in my city, and even with track and field, right, becoming the pole vault champion, in 2005 and all this stuff. And I had a lot of great success in high school, but when I went off to college, it just wasn't the case, right? I wasn't the star athlete anymore. I wasn't the critical factor on whether or not my team won the game or not. I didn't get the significance that I got in high school. And it was a very low point for me. But when I reflect back on it, I remember a lot of the guys that I played with would always end up injured. And I remember even for me, I would go through injuries for the very first time in college. And I had never experienced injuries throughout high school. But in college, it's a different ball game. And when you play at those levels, the game is faster, the guys hit harder. And sometimes when I reflect back on it, I'm like, man, what if that was really just God's protection, right? I could have had a brain injury. There are people who end up disabled from playing football. Like, football is a very violent sport. I mean, it's super violent. And oftentimes, you'll get comments like, oh, rugby is even worse, right? But listen, if football players didn't have football pads and the helmet that they have, there would be no sport. It's just that damn violent. And for those of you who've played the sport, and a lot of guys, you hear the stories, end up with concussions and all these different things. And sometimes when I reflect back on it, I'm like, man, what if that was just God's protection? And, whether or not it is or it isn't, I just choose to believe that. Because you never know. Like, it's like if I had to go back and say, man, I wish I would have been the star athlete. But then I look at the crystal ball and I see myself, going through a massive injury that affected me throughout my life. Like, God preserved me of my health. I was able to leave with good health. And it is important to reflect on the fact that, what? Sometimes it's not God's rejection, it's God's protection. And you just never know what could have happened if you moved forward in that season of whatever it is that you're going through. So, it does genuinely help to embrace that. Whether or not it's true makes no difference. What's the alternative? Just choosing to believe something else? Like, it's useful to believe in the fact that, what? God had something better for me. And that's okay. Now, remember, hard seasons break attachments and build inner strength. Sometimes you may have had attachments to possibly your identity. I remember just even letting go of my identity as a football player. Like, I had such an attachment to it. And God had bigger plans. I had dreams of going to the NFL, and that was like, I mean, every little boy's dream who plays football. And I remember thinking to myself, like, man, like when it was time to hang up the cleats, it was, I watched an Instagram video the other day, and there was a video shared with a guy taking off his pads, his football pads and his helmet for the very last time. It was the very last game he ever played, and he's all muddy and sweaty and he's there, a big guy, probably about 300 pounds, and he's in tears. He's in tears and he's super emotional. And the reason he's emotional is because it's the very last time he takes off his pads. And I remember what that felt like. I got emotional watching the video because I remember what that was like. Like my very last game in high school, it was like everybody was crying. And a big part of that is it's your identity. You're like letting go of your identity. And it's so hard to let go of who you thought you were, right? Or who you think you are. And when it's all said and done, there may be a bigger plan. So for me, in my case, the way it worked out is I never made it to the NFL, right? But God had bigger plans. And at my mid-20s, I found myself standing in Dallas Cowboys Stadium on the 50-yard line, looking at myself on an 80-yard Jumbotron, sharing my business success with 22,000 people in Dallas Cowboys Stadium. God had bigger plans. I could have sat there and dwelt on the fact that, I'm a failure, or, right, like my whole identity is just tarnished and all this stuff. And I could have got wrapped around this plan that I had for myself. And it's like the old Russian proverb, man makes plans and God laughs. Because sometimes we have all these big dreams, all these big aspirations, not realizing that there's something even better. There's something even better on the other side. So that's why I love holding on to the idea that God does answer prayers. And the way he answers them is either yes, not now, or I've got something even better. And in the case for me, yeah, NFL would have been nice, but honestly, I would choose what I do today all day, every day. The fact that I've been able to serve so many people, the fact that I was able to have business success at such a young age, where if I had a career in football, like I probably would have started in business like years and years into my adult life. But because I went straight into entrepreneurship, and that was my way of expressing myself, expressing that competitive edge and that teamwork and all these different things that I loved about sports. So God simply was taking everything I loved about sports and bringing it to the marketplace, right? And using that, everything that I had learned over the years, for something bigger. So it is helpful to just put your trust in that. There's something bigger brewing. Who believes that? Who believes that sometimes we think that we have like this, like there's this plan, and you're so caught up on this one identity or this one vision, but who genuinely believes that sometimes that one vision is just a doorway to a destination? You think it's the destination originally, not realizing that it really was just a doorway to the destination. I believe that wholeheartedly. And it most certainly has worked that way throughout the course of my life. So think about everything that you've gone through. Think about things that you wanted in the past, right? Sometimes it's like, if you got what you wanted, you probably would have sabotaged it. You probably weren't the person you needed to be. So that's why sometimes the answer to the prayer is not now, because there are certain things that have to happen in the process. Maybe you have to become a certain type of person so you have the capacity for the responsibility. Next, we have hard seasons break attachment and build inner strength, right? So whatever it is that you're attached to, and sometimes it's relationships, and you have to go through that very difficult season to break that attachment where you say enough is enough. I'm no longer dealing with this. Sometimes it's setting better boundaries for yourself, right? Sometimes it's environments. It's an attachment to a job. And I remember when I retired from my job, initially it was hard, man, because I I was holding on to this idea of benefits and a retirement package. And it's like I always hear my mentor in my head. He's like, he'll say things like, a salary is the drug they give you to forget your dreams. And I would argue to say sometimes benefits and a pension is the drug they give you to forget your dreams, because you get so caught up on, oh, what if I lose my pension or my retirement or lose my benefits? Listen, us entrepreneurs, we have our own benefits, right? We set up our own retirement as well. You can do that for yourself. You don't have to rely on your company to do that for you. Not sure how many of you realize that. Like you don't get so tied and fixated on your benefits, forgetting that, hey, you can create your own benefits. There are tons of services out there that you can put together for yourself. So, very important to understand. Like my family, we have health coverage. We have all that stuff. I've had retirement funds that I've built over the years as an entrepreneur. So you can create your own benefits. Next, we have sometimes life removes things because you were never supposed to carry them into your next chapter. You were never supposed to carry them into your next chapter. And sometimes that's a tough pill to swallow, because you realize that there are certain people in your life that you have to go through an eviction process. And I oftentimes speak about this eviction process on people who've been squatting in your mind rent free, right? People who just taking up a lot of space and there's no mutual exchange of value. It's like you're always the one pouring into them, and there's never that value reciprocated. I believe that relationships should be a mutual exchange of value. It should never just be one person constantly giving, and the other person just receiving and not trying to serve back. Like it should be like that. In my opinion, that's what true relationships are like, right? And it's not to say you're doing a tick for tack kind of deal where it's like you've got this measuring stick. It's not that. It's just, hey, this is the right thing to do. You serve me, I serve you. We're doing life together. Let's take care of each other. That's what relationships should be like. So it is important to really evaluate those relationships and whether or not those are the relationships that are going to go with you in the next chapter. Sometimes they're like, friends are like leaves. And when times get tough and the storms come, they just leave. Right? Like you really know someone's character by the tough times and how many people are really down for you. How many people show up? How many people genuinely check on you? Okay. So remember, life will remove things at times, and it's because you were never meant to bring those things into your next chapter. So embrace it. Now, there have been tons of moments along my personal journey, right? Whether it was transitioning from regular W-2 job to now 1099 and embarking on entrepreneurship, sometimes businesses that came crumbling. Like I remember just even going through COVID, I built a multi-million-dollar business. I had thousands of people that were in my organization, and it all came crumbling. Like the very business that I had dedicated my heart and soul to came crumbling right before my eyes. And I had to pivot. And you know what? It was one of the best things that could have ever happened, because again, that was also an attachment. There was an attachment to that whole identity, that whole world. And I feel like it opened up more possibility. I probably wouldn't be doing the Breakfast Club today or podcasting today or have my company Dream Nation Media today if it wasn't for going through that. I would have been too comfortable. Right? Things were really good. I literally could go 6 months without working and live off of residual income. But God called me for something greater. So it is essential to just embrace those aspects. Like, yeah, that was a season and it was beautiful. But you know what? There's something better on the other side. So part 4, we're going to be covering the 7 practices to build unbreakable faith. The 7 practices to build unbreakable faith. First one is practice surrender. Surrender is letting go of control. And this was difficult for me. I feel like over the last 2 years of my life, it was a chapter of learning surrender. because I've been so used to, especially for me, I've been a coach that taught people on peak performance. Like, I'm big on teaching people how to take control over their lives, how to take action, how to execute, how to put strategy and implementation. That's what I've been about. But there was a big part of the equation that was missing. Like, I had gotten so many results and I had such a long streak of wins that when life really, really shook me up, and now I was forced to surrender. Like, there's going to be times in your life where it's so dark, where you don't even have the capacity to take action. Like, you haven't really gone through a really difficult season until you've gotten to a place where you can't even participate in your own rescue, when all that's left is surrender. That's a tough season. How many of you have gone through that? Drop a 1 in the comments if you can relate to a point in your life where all you were left with was your faith. There was nothing left to do. And I don't know, I just personally believe, from a spiritual standpoint, that sometimes we have to be put in those situations, in those seasons, to really stretch our faith, right? To really lean on our Creator. Okay, so it starts with practicing surrender. Faith starts when ego ends. When you say, you know what? It's like, God, take the wheel, because you got it from here. I have zero control right now. And ego, they say, is an acronym for edging God out. Sometimes we get so caught up on what we can do. But listen, life will humble you. Life will bring you with no other options but faith. And remember, surrender, and this was a big part for me to learn, surrender is not weakness. It's trust in divine timing. It's not just this passive weakness where, you know what, I'm not going to do anything, and I don't have the capacity. No, it's like, you know what, I trust that God is going to work it out. It's having this expectation, again, in miracles. Next, we have anchor yourself in a bigger vision. When you reconnect to your purpose, you stop obsessing about the moment and start focusing on the mission. So one of the things, like when I went through challenging financial seasons, one of the things that really helped me gain my perspective was, man, I had never gone through this as an adult. Like, I knew what it was like to go through poverty, like growing up in the hood and struggling financially. But as an adult, I hadn't really gone through any financial challenges. And then when I finally went through them, I'm like, you know what? I always had to keep the perspective. Like, this can be very useful. Like, I can relate to so many more people around the world. I felt like, because I had so much success, it was very difficult to really empathize with people who were going through very tough moments. And the reality is that life is life, and bills are billing for everybody. Most people in the world go through financial challenges. So I constantly have had to remind myself that, man, you're able to empathize on a deeper level. It's okay. Now you've got a story. Right? Nobody wants to hear the story of someone that just always was up, someone who hadn't gone through anything. We resonate with the hero's journey of, you know what? This hero, he went to the valley. She went to the valley. She went through everything you could possibly imagine and found her way back to the light. She climbed her way out of it. Right? She had to surrender to God, and God came through. Like, those are the stories that we love. Though that's the hero's journey that we so love and adore, and we love to hear about. So embrace it and understand that what you're going through is just a part of this greater mission. Next, we have use evidence from your past. Use evidence from your past. So look back at all the things you thought were the end, but you survived them. Super, super helpful. I don't know about y'all, but I got a history with God. We've got a long history of so many things. From the time that I was a little boy, I can recall conversations with God that I've had. And it's been a long history of just navigating through all kinds of challenges, like very difficult things where, those moments where you're like, God, if you just get me out of this, right, I'm going to get it together. I remember as a kid, look, I have no shame in my game. I believe in being authentic and real. I remember as a kid, we used to steal a lot. We'd go into stores and we'd steal. And this was a big part of my childhood, like growing up in the hood. We'd go to the mall and we'd find ways to just steal things. And I remember it just never felt right in my soul. And I had went through something very, very, very dark. And I was just like, God, if you just get me through this, I promise you, I will never steal again. And lo and behold, God got me through that very, very tough scenario that I was going through. And that was the very last time I ever stole. Even to this day, if I see someone drop 10 grand while walking, I just, there's like, not for a second, I could be going through the most difficult circumstance in my life. And I would be, hey, you dropped all this cash, like, and I can wholeheartedly tell you that, like, my integrity is so, so important. And me honoring what I said I would do from a very young age. Like, and I remember my friends, they would still go out and steal, and they knew that I made a promise. Like, they wouldn't even bother asking me anymore because I had to tell them, like, look, I promised God I wouldn't steal. And they would always say that, like, Josh, we already know, like he already made that agreement and they'd go out and do their thing, but I just wasn't a part of it anymore. And sometimes we go through those moments with God, and it is helpful to recall your history, whatever you've gone through. And I've had many, many different moments where I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get my act together because I really need God to show up right now. And when you look back, it's a beautiful thing to look at your history with God. And if you're not there spiritually, talk to someone who has a long history of God. They'll tell you over and over again how many times their creator has showed up for them. So another thing is, you look back at all the things you thought were the end and you survived them, but you also use your own life as proof that you're guided. Your own life. Sometimes if you want to reach people spiritually, it's not enough to just tell them what you heard. Tell them what you've been through. Tell them what you've gone through. It's so helpful. So today, even talking on the Breakfast Club, I'm not talking about something I read from a book. I'm like, no, these are real life scenarios of how many times God has showed up. Another thing is build a faith routine. So daily habits that strengthen trust, a faith routine. So the faith routine, so many things. So for example, meditation and prayer. You guys hear me say it all the time. Prayer is speaking to God. Meditation is listening to God. And that has always been an anchor for me. Well, not always. Let me not say always. It's over the last several years, it's been a major part of my life. Like it's almost like eating for me. I don't go a day without eating, and I also don't go a day without checking in, right? Next, we have gratitude. That's also a big, big part of my personal development. Gratitude is so powerful in so many ways, and it will really help you emotionally. Whenever you're going through a very difficult season, focus on gratitude. Focus on what is going right. Next, we have affirmations. So affirmations, just speaking things into existence, right? There are three things that dictate your emotional state at every moment in time. It's your body or your physiology, your focus, what it is that you're focusing on in the moment, and it's also your language, your self-talk, the way you talk about your scenario, your situation, yourself, or the meaning you give to something. So affirmations is very important. Another thing is journaling. Big, big part of it. You guys know that I'm a huge proponent for journaling. And then it could be faith statements, like something incredible is unfolding for me, even if I can't see it yet. So having a powerful faith statement, like, man, God is going to get me on the other side. I'm blessed and highly favored, whatever it is. Okay. Also very similar to affirmations. Next, stay in environments that strengthen your spirit. Stay in environments that strengthen your spirit. I mean, whatever it is that your religion, I just believe that being in the house of God, whether it's a church, mosque, synagogue, temple, whatever, right? But being in that atmosphere, it really does help. And for me, going to church on a weekly basis, it really does help. Just a couple weeks ago, I was in a temple in the woods, right, with a spiritual teacher. But I love being in holy places. And for me, my kids, you know, where we travel a lot, we embrace all walks of faith, right? And our thing is church. We every Sunday, you know, we're there together. And for me, it's important to be in that environment. And then I have a men's business leaders group that I'm a part of that meets in the church, you know, twice a week as well. And just being around that brotherhood, being in that environment, these are environments that kind of keep you just in a spirit of faith. It keeps you feeling more protected in a sense, like having people in environments that are conducive to your overall well-being. And it does help. And I'm not saying that all institutions are created equal now, because there's some ones that aren't so good, right? But find you one, and don't judge one based off of your past experiences with others. Give other organizations, other institutions, you know, give them a chance, right? And it is important to just shop around. Maybe you're church shopping and looking around for the right fit, right? And that's the beautiful thing about faith, is it's so expansive. And maybe you resonate more with a church that it's not so loud and not so wild and out there, you know, but everyone is different. There's tons of different denominations. It's just like a buffet, and you find out what works for you, what resonates with you. Whatever can keep you rooted in your faith is the most important thing. Whatever can strengthen, it's not about religion, it's about relationship. Whatever can strengthen that relationship with your creator is the most important thing. Okay. Now remember, community, mentors, faith-based spaces, powerful content, right? It could be like podcast like this, The Breakfast Club. We're here talking about spirituality, and maybe it's your first time and you're like, man, this is a lot of spiritual stuff. It's not always exactly just like spirituality, but I believe that spirituality is the glue that keeps it all together, right? You guys hear me talk about faith, fitness, family, fortune, fun, the 5 F's, but faith is at the top for a reason, because faith is essentially going to help, again, get you through the most difficult seasons of your life, and it'll always keep you rooted in all the important things. Remember, we're spiritual beings having a human experience, not human beings having a spiritual experience. Next, faith weakens in isolation and strengthens in connection. Don't be isolated. Don't suffer in silence. Don't live a life of quiet desperation. Get out there. Find people who you can just talk to about what it is that you're going through. Okay. And a trusted circle of people that you could always go to and seek counsel from. And also have people in your corner that's going to tell you how it is. They're going to tell you like, yo, you're screwing up. Hey, you shouldn't do that. Like, you know, that's not what's best for you. It is so good to have, like they say, you don't need a yes man. You need a corner man. You need someone that's going to tell you it straight. Someone who's going to just be very real with you. Right? Not from a judgmental standpoint, but from a genuine caring standpoint. They're going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. It's super helpful to have people like that in your corner. Next is take aligned action, even when you don't feel ready. Faith without action becomes fantasy. Don't be the person that's just sitting around, right? Waiting for just something to fall on your lap. Are there moments like that? Yeah, but I wouldn't just bet on that. Participate in your own rescue. Get in the game and understand that small steps build momentum and confidence. Next, release timelines and trust divine timing. Remember, time isn't linear. In the spiritual realm, time is not this linear concept. We look at it as linear. We're only alive for a blink of a moment. In the cosmic sense, when you look at things and you kind of zoom all the way out, like we're here for a very, very short period of time. And God doesn't work on the same timeline we work on. So trusting in divine timing. Okay. Life rarely delivers blessings on the schedule we want, but always on the schedule we need. Always on the schedule we need. I always share the story of, even during my time in business, I remember when I first got started with my first business that I was building out, I thought I was going to hit the top like within the first year. You couldn't tell me that I wasn't going to hit the top. I'm like, man, I definitely, I got the gift of gab. I have the connections. I can do this. I had the drive. And it literally took almost 7 years, so much longer than I had expected. In fact, if I knew it was going to take as long as it took to replace the income from my job, I probably would not have even taken on the business endeavor. I would have been like, no, there's no way in the world I'm waiting that long. So embrace the divine timing, because what did happen was I cultivated patience. I learned a lot. I grew into the person that I needed to become, to have the capacity for that level of responsibility, to be able to lead people. I had time to grow as a leader. If I would have built a multi-million-dollar business in 1 year, I would have sabotaged it all. So God was also cultivating an appreciation for what it was that I had. Sometimes when we get things too fast, we don't appreciate it as much. So it is super helpful to just trust in that divine timing and kind of letting go of your timing. I remember a mentor of mine would always say, you want to be impatient with your activity, but patient with your outcome. Impatient with your activity. So you do all that you can do, right? It's like being a farmer. You sow the seeds, but you have to be patient on God's time. You can't undig a seed and see if it's growing. No, you have to just trust that it's going to happen, right? You sow the seed, and it's not, you sow it and keep checking to see if something is coming out of it. Like you're not going to take it out of the soil. You're going to leave it there, and you're going to let the germination process happen. And you're going to trust in the divine timing. And that's the same way that life works, right? You sow your seeds and trust in the divine timing. Now, some breakthroughs require maturation, right? Maturity, preparation, positioning. There are other aspects of the dream. There are other people involved, other things that have to happen behind the scenes. You understand? So you don't want to force an outcome. All right. Next, we have release. After release timelines and trust divine timing, we have signs that your faith is working. This is really good. So signs that your faith is working. And by the way, if you're getting value, drop a V in the comments for value. If you're getting value so far, we're about to bring this plane in for a landing. And before I do so, I almost forgot. We're as a community, we're running the very last challenge for the year. It's like a mini challenge. I'm doing one-on-one coaching with a select group of people. I had tons of people reach out to me. If you never got the information on it, just DM me the word challenge. Even if you don't get around to it this week or next week, I could always put you on a standby list. And so many, like the moment I made the announcement, I had tons of people flooding my inbox to get more information on it. But I'm currently working with the select group of people one-on-one for 5 days, right? And if you want more info on how it works or how you can be a part of it, just DM me the word challenge. I'll be more than happy to fill you in. But I'm really excited. Yesterday was day one for a lot of people. So it's pretty cool just working with people at this level. It's my very first time working directly with our community one-on-one for 5 days. So as you guys know, there's only one of me. So I obviously can't do this for everyone, but hit me up anyway. I'll be more than happy to send you information and at least get you on the standby list for the next round. So moving forward, as we bring this plane in for a landing, signs that your faith is working. And if you're getting value, drop a V for value in the comments. All right. Here's a sign. You feel calmer even when things aren't perfect. It's a big, big part of it. And I've noticed that even for myself. It's so much better to just have that peace. Like, you know what? God, you got it. I know it's going to work out. I'm going to keep doing what I do and just trust that you're going to work it out. Another one is you're not reacting emotionally as quickly. I remember I'd get more freaked out. Like I start to panic. Like, man, this is not looking good. And you get to a stage where you mature spiritually, and now you're not reacting as emotionally as quickly. Another thing is you're able to say, I don't know how, but I know it's going to work out. How many of you can relate to a season like that? You were just like, you know what? God got me. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I know it's going to happen one way or another. I was just talking to one of my business partners about this. Another thing is you start seeing synchronicities, like little alignments small wins, small victories here and there. You might see some signs that like, you know what, wow, I see things kind of coming together, right? It's a big part of it. And another thing is your intuition becomes stronger. When you're a person of faith, it's like you're looking for the signs, the miracles of God's wonder, right? Like how God is going to show up. And it's really fascinating to even have that mentality like, man, I wonder how God is going to show up, right? And if you're going to have a prayer, pray for like miracles that are just like you're constantly wowed by how God has showed up for you. Like, I've had this happen to me so many times where I was probably in a difficult a challenging season. I didn't really know how it was going to happen. And then all of a sudden I get that phone call. All of a sudden that money comes through, right? Like there's just random moments. And it's like, wow, like God will blow you away when you live in alignment with your spirituality. So remember, when your energy shifts, your outcomes shift. Faith is an energy. It's an energy that you have, right? Everything is energy. Right. And emotion is energy in motion, right? Everything is energy. So what to do when faith feels impossible? Okay. So think about it. For those of you who feel stuck, maybe you feel like things are a bit heavy. Maybe you're like defeated, discouraged. This specific segment is for you. Okay. So the first thing is admit how you feel. Don't suppress it. I did a podcast with a gentleman the other day, and we were at a cigar lounge, and he was just sharing the story of how he was over 300 pounds. Like he had lost over 150 pounds, and he had to get real with himself. And he wrote something on a letter that he put on his fridge, just talking about himself in a not nice way, but that's how he had to talk to himself to really just express what he was feeling and to really take action. Like, bro, if you don't get your act together, you're not going to be here, right? Sometimes we have to be spoken to in that way. And he shared that, and it was powerful to hear it. So sometimes just like not admitting where you're at, being real with yourself. This is where I'm at, and I don't have it all together, and that's okay. But don't suppress it. Don't suppress just how you're feeling. Allow yourself to feel what it is that you need to feel. Another thing is reach out for support. Again, don't do life alone. Don't suffer in silence. Don't carry burdens alone. Life was meant to be shared with other people, right? That's the idea. Like you help someone take up their cross, and there are going to be seasons in your life where you may have to rely on other people because the cross gets heavy for yourself, and you need other people to come alongside you. Say, hey, I got you. I'm here. I'm walking with you. Next is get back into your body. Get back, get grounded, breath work. Right? Take off your shoes and ground yourself with the earth. Go for a walk. Get yourself. Sometimes our heads are in the cloud and we forget to center ourselves. Okay. Next, we have replace why is this happening to me with what is this preparing me for? Perspective can take you a very long way. Next, we have rebuild faith one small moment at a time. Remember, it's those micro steps. So here's a really great mantra. Step by step, moment by moment, breath by breath. Remember, it's just taking life by the day. Focus on winning the day. All right, so as we wrap up, remember, faith is a muscle and you strengthen it in difficult seasons. So I just want to encourage you guys to trust that you're being guided, even when it's not visible. That's the idea, is having trust even when there is no evidence. And here's a really great affirmation that you guys can walk away with. Everything I'm going through is aligning me with my highest good. I am guided. I am protected. I am prepared, and everything is working out in my favor. So, guys, if you got value from this, tag someone who can also get value from it. Like, comment, share, tag all that stuff. Hit me up if you have any questions. Hit me up if there's anything that I could ever give you advice on or anything like that. I'm always here to support you guys. I hope that today was super valuable for you. If it was, drop a comment. Let me know. I read through all the comments and I appreciate the love and support. As always, breakfast is served. My hope for you is that you go deeper with your faith, and that not only do you go deeper with your faith, that one day you tell the story of how God has constantly showed up in your life. And I can assure you, you'll be a blessing to so many people around the world. Take care, guys.